everyone. Welcome to Living Consciously. I'm Carol Carnes. Well, it's not even Valentine's Day, but I'm going to speak to you all about love today. Love, after all, is the power that holds the universe together. It's kind of the glue of everything. Although it's not stagnant, it's moving all the time. Love is an activity, it's a dynamic, and as the great spiritual teacher of the 20th century, Ernest Holmes, said, love is the cohesiveness that holds everything in harmony and balance. And that love brings things together that belong together and maintains them in harmony and balance, as long as the love is active. So much has been written about it, and I think it's fair to say, I bet you'd agree with me, that our human experience of love and our human concepts of love are very small, very much about romantic relationship, personal relationship, intimacy and commitment, and that sort of thing. And that's all wonderful, but it is so much bigger than that. And the more universal qualities of love, once considered, can really help us live on a higher level ourselves. In the 20th century, some of us discovered a wonderful spiritual teacher by the name of Krishnamurti. He lived in Ojai, California, and during the 60s and 70s, he was quite popular. He had a big following. Every once in a while, I pull down one of his books, and I'll just flip it open, and my eyes will fall on something, usually something that triggers or inspires me to elaborate on it. And that happened this morning. And so I came upon a sentence by him, and then I used it to jump off from, I guess you could say, to write my daily blog, Living Consciously. The sentence was, love is not a result. That's kind of provocative when you think about it. I want to talk about that a little bit. You know, there was also a book in the 70s or 80s called Love is Letting Go of Fear. And the idea is that fear and love cannot exist in the same moment together at the same time. That fear is a result of the thoughts of either anticipating pleasure or anticipating pain. You see, fear, on the one hand, we fear that our good will not come, and that's futurizing things, and that's where fear is usually located, in the sense of what will happen next, and not sure what will happen next, and fearing that it won't be to our liking. On the other hand, if we have some great love in our life, some great good in our life, we can get into the fear that it'll go away. I mean, you know, that's the root of a lot of problems in relationships, is the fear that the love is going to be taken away by someone else, or just fade away, or die a natural death. But that's what fear is. Fear is the result of anticipating the future, reliving the past, or trying to keep things permanent. Now, we know this is an impossibility. In the realm of time and space, things can't stay the same. They can't remain in static conditions. They must grow, they must evolve, they must continue to unfold and become more of themselves. I mean, love is no exception, and it tends to do that if we're really engaged with it. But the idea of seeking permanence is a very Western concept. The Buddhists got it. They understand the impermanence of everything, to celebrate the temporary and realize that no matter what it is, it won't be here for long. That doesn't mean it's a negative. It means it can become more of what it is. But in Western culture, advertisers, everything is about stressing the importance of seeking permanence. You know, try to stay young forever. Try to keep this relationship forever. You know, everything in our culture is somewhat involved with the pursuit of permanence, and that's folly. That is a fool's pursuit. So how does love fit into this? Don't you laugh when you see a dog chasing its own tail? There was on the funniest home videos, but America's Funniest Home Videos, one of the ones that won the $100,000 was hilarious. And it was a dog barking at his own tail, as if it were separate from him. This is appropriate to what we're speaking about today. That seems to be the condition of many people who are trying to get and keep love. They are pursuing it, and at the same time fearing that it won't come or that it won't stay. But you see, love is not something to be gotten, and love is not something to be kept. It's not a result of anything. It's a state of being. And it's the most natural state of being to all of us who are sentient. And even sentient animals love. You know, we know more about the inner life of animals today than we ever did, especially those that hang around humans. And we can see that they have emotions and that they do have affections and they do have what we would call a form of love. It seems to be natural in every person. Now, in an infant, it has to be nurtured, but that doesn't mean we give it to them. It means we bring it out. You know, the essence of real conscious parenting is an awakening of what's already present. You know, children are not little lumps of clay that we turn into something. They're there, they're whole, but we help them develop and realize who they are. And one of the things we realize about ourselves over time is that love is something that pre-existed our birth. That it really is the energy that brought us in, if you will. It's the energy that is our relationship, how can I say this? A link, if you will, to the divine or to the universal. Love is the energy between you and God, if you want to call it that, the universal mind, the source of all life, and it's present in you, and so is the source of life. You see what I'm saying? Love is the feeling of being one with, and that's why it's a spiritual quality, because oneness is definitely a spiritual state of awareness, and it is definitely a feeling of bliss. You know, this is why we're also addicted to falling in love, and don't deny it, it's a beautiful, fun state to be in, right? Well, the first part of falling in love is a spiritual state. There's a wonderful book about this called We, written by Dr. Robert Johnson, who was a Jungian psychoanalyst. And this book is all about romantic love and how it's actually in the first stages of bliss, a spiritual experience that we are each having inside ourselves, but projecting onto the other person. So this is what happens to us when we are trying to find love. How many commercials are there for matchmaking these days? Find your true love. You know, what they're really saying is, you want to meet someone who'll be your best friend. You want to meet someone that you can hang out with and you like their qualities and they like yours and you don't get on each other's nerves too much. And you can turn it into a relationship. But it isn't about seeking love. It's about giving love. It's about wanting to find someone that is so compatible with you that it awakens your love. That's what this is really all about. Now, if we have an awakened love in us, we're not so desperate to seek a partner. We might want one, but it's not desperation. It's not a sense of being completed. It's a sense of wanting to experience our wholeness. This morning, I just got hooked up with Netflix, so I've been kind of binge watching Grace and Frankie. I love that show. But before that, when I turned on regular TV, there was a preacher of a more evangelical stripe, but he was giving a great message. He was saying, "Be whole," W-H-O-L-E, be whole. And he had the audience say it out loud, and then he had them say it to each other. I thought that was kind of cute, but a very deep message. Being whole means realizing who you are. And who you are is love in action. It exists in you. I remember once when my daughter was a young teenager, like 14, and she was madly in love, and he broke up with her, and she was so devastated. And we had the talk about what I had to help her see. Was I said, honey, you didn't lose love. You didn't lose anything. The form of your relationships changed. You're no longer going to be a couple, but you still have the love. It's in you. And he was a reflection of it. He didn't take it. He can't take your love away from you. You know, he didn't give it to you, and he can't take it away. So that's practical advice for a young mind, but it's also good advice at any age to really realize when we talk about love, we are dealing with a power, not a sentiment, not an emotion. We're dealing with a power. And it is a power that is everywhere. You can see it in nature. You know, nature has a way of balancing herself, reproducing herself, and displaying herself in miraculous diversity and beauty. That's love in action. You see, when we talk about oneness, well, nature is one with the forces that allow her to express. And so are we. We are one with those forces that are unseen but sensed by us, and love is one of them. So human beings can create really terrible pain for themselves by denying the love they deserve. Now, what does that mean? I'm not saying denying yourself a relationship. You don't have to have a relationship if you don't want one, but you can have love anytime. What kind of love am I talking about? If not, the love of self. You know, you can't overstate this in a spiritual context, that self-love is all important. And I am not talking about ego love. I'm not talking about, aren't I great, look what I've done. I'm talking about just loving yourself as an expression of God or spirit, loving yourself as a unique being, never been done before, never will be done again exactly the same way. Loving yourself as being a part of nature and one of nature's delightful expressions. Seriously, with nothing added, just being alive. You know, little kids get this. They don't think about it, it's not a concept, but they act as if it were so. I can kind of remember being 2 years old, maybe a little younger even, and just feeling the aliveness, feeling that this whole thing was such a wonderful adventure and everything was new. That's love in action. It's being one with possibility, one with the environment, one with other people. It's self-love that allows us to do that. And when we don't have it, we can't accept that experience of oneness with anybody. We will push them away. You know, people who do not love themselves are very defensive, very self-protective, very self-righteous. And they'll always blame you for their experience and their feelings, and it has nothing to do with you. There's a lot to say about this, and we'll say more in the next part of the program. But right now we're going to take a little break. We have wonderful sponsors, and we're very grateful for them. And so let's pause, and when we come back, we'll pick up a little more about the concept of self-love and how we can develop that. Okay? Don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. Call the number on your screen right now to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business. According to the secret war, banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get the secret war free. Call the number on your screen or visit online.
Hi everyone, we're back. And if you've just joined us, we've been talking about love today, in the sense that love is a spiritual state of being, and it is not something that is the result of anything else. Krishnamurti, the great spiritual teacher of the 20th century, said that love is not a result. Every other emotional state is, but love isn't an emotion, and it's not a sentiment. It is an experience of oneness with, and it begins with self-love. So we left off talking about that. You know, human beings cause themselves terrible pain when they don't have a loving relationship with their own self. That may sound strange, but think about it. We all have a relationship with ourselves. We are alone in the world. We relate, we fill up our time with all sorts of activities. We don't exactly experience being alone, but we actually are. Even when we're in a crowd and where everybody's talking, we're in here thinking, and we are having a dialogue with ourselves all the time. And some of the things that we express are really quite revealing. I know someone I was talking to recently, they don't live here but at a distance, who showed me quite clearly that they have a lot of self-rejection. And they were projecting it out onto me, probably whoever else they were engaged with. It was kind of sad to me because I realized that no one could give that person any love because love isn't something you can give. It's something you are, it's something you're aware of being, and how you are in the world is the way you express it, you know, with compassion and kindness and caring and truth-telling. You know, sometimes tough love really is necessary, but it's active in us or it isn't. Now, having said that, it's always there. You know, something, it can be dormant, but it's always there. What triggers it? We do. When we go looking for it in here and not out there. When we sit still, this is the great benefit of meditation. I'm talking about daily meditation, not hit and miss every Tuesday, but everyday morning meditation. It triggers our natural love, that natural sense of well-being, happy for no reason. That's what happens to those of us who meditate every day, and I can attest to that. It's a welling up of a kind of a natural joy. That's love in action. So seeking outside for someone else to awaken love in us is a very foolish pursuit. They just can't do it. It has to be alive in us, and then we have enough self-confidence and enough self-regard and enough stability, if you will, to see through the machinations of false expressions, if you will. And what I'm trying to get at is we know who to be with and who not to be with. You see, when you have a lot of self-respect and self-love and self-regard, and I'm not talking about ego, I'm just talking about really feeling the treasure of aliveness and respecting that, you see through a lot of foolish stuff. your wisdom arises. Love is very much tied to wisdom. I have found that to be true. That wisdom attends love. And I'm not talking that really doesn't fit with our human sense of what love is. Like love is blind, and and we go head over heels. That's a different thing. That's infatuation, and it's fun. But real love is wisdom. Real love allows us to see through what's going on to what needs to happen. It allows us to be present in a relationship. It allows us to be very authentic and transparent about what's going on with us. It allows us to actually build a relationship. That's the wisdom that attends self-love. But without self-love, you're grasping at everything else to make yourself feel better. Well, it could be a substance, but it could be multiple serial relationships, trying to find what you have denied that you already have. It's a fool's pursuit. So think about a burden you put on people when you assume it's their responsibility to make you feel loved. It's a terrible thing to do to somebody. They can't, first of all, they can't do it. So they will try like heck to do it. Now, again, this level of maturity in love is not common in our culture. And so you got to really think about this as separate from those immature expectations of love, which have more to do with wanting to feel those highs of being newly in love, which is fine. As I said in the earlier part of the program, that's a spiritual experience, but it's not going to last unless it's nurtured from within. That is an inner experience that we're projecting onto the other person. Okay, so what is love then? If not the presence of God in us? Spirit. You don't have to use the word God if that gives you, reactions from your childhood or whatever. It's just a word we use to describe something that's almost indescribable. It is a presence. We feel it as our own life. We feel it as our own aliveness. We feel it as a natural joy, as a desire to unite with, to connect with, to bless others, to prosper, to experience the wholeness of our own being, and to experience life on higher and higher levels. That's the presence of Spirit in us, and it feels like love, where there's nothing missing. See, you know how when you're newly in love and you're just in bliss together, all you want to do is be together because nothing else matters, right? And yet everything else matters more. So there's nothing missing in those divine first moments. Well, that's a natural experience of life if you can just let yourself have it. It has to be supported by some quiet time. This is not something that we feel by doing. It is something we feel by being. It is something that is awakened in us when we're not doing anything, when we're just being with ourselves. That's when all kinds of awarenesses arise. But it's a feeling that comes from sitting in silence over a long enough time and on a regular basis. It just comes up. And it's the same feeling we had when we were babies. Just so in awe and wonder, and so happy to be here. And as I said, attending love is wisdom. So we tend to become smarter. Isn't that interesting? We tend to become smarter when we have a sense of the presence of love in us that is not the result of what anyone else is doing or not doing. They can't take it away and they can't give it. But we can mutually experience it. This is why, the best advice you can give a young person is develop your own maturity and stability, and then find someone who's also mature and stable. You can't heal other people. That's an inside job. They used to say, marry potential. No, don't marry potential. What you see is what you get, and it only gets bigger, right? So you want a relationship with someone who is also developing their natural qualities, who's also having an experience of wisdom. It doesn't mean you agree on everything. It means there's a respect. That you want to meet someone and be with someone. If you're going to have a long-term relationship, they have to have self-respect, and so do you. Otherwise, you're just going to be feeding off of each other emotionally, and eventually the whole thing will just die a natural death. So, advice from an old lady. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful thing it is to explore ideas for better living. It's really such an inside job. And you have everything you need already. You know, I have learned this and I'm still learning it, and so I like to share these ideas with you. But it's nothing you don't already have. So my advice always is to just stay tuned in to the higher self. Give yourself the experience of quiet every morning and watch what happens. So we're the Mesilla Valley Center for Spiritual Living, and we're still meeting every Sunday morning at 10:30 at the Community Center on Calle de Santiago in Mesilla. It's a great gathering. It's a small group, but we would love to have you come. I'd love to meet you in person. 10:30 Sunday morning. And otherwise, get on our website, Mesilla Valley Center for Spiritual Living, mvcsl.org, for any announcements. And you can also make a donation to us. We really do greatly appreciate your financial support. And you can do it via PayPal. All right, so until I see you next time, stay tuned in, learn to meditate, love yourself, you're worth it. I'll see you soon.